Most would agree that once you've achieved a certain level of professionalism in any sector, your development requires a commitment to marginal gains. The improvements you can make will only be marginal, but collectively those marginal gains, consistently applied and consistently developed, will make a hell of a difference. For financial planners, I believe that a large part of that contribution to marginal gains will require a commitment to continual learning about the context and the detail in which financial planning best practice and relevant legislation is being developed. So I want to look at some of those areas, those contextual areas and areas of detail that I believe are relevant to financial planners committed to making marginal gains. The first has to be contextual, and it's about something I've talked about many times before, and the way in which the government and the HMRC's approach to anti-avoidance has been developed and has been really, really successful. So don't strain to achieve the unachievable in relation to tax planning. It's not possible. Basically go with the tried and tested. But the marginal gain you can gain here in relation to your relationships, particularly with professional advisors, is to show that small extra bit, that extra bit of knowledge about what's underneath that new approach to anti-avoidance. Be aware that the general anti-abuse rule exists. Be aware of new targeted anti-avoidance rules that apply and are developed with pretty much every budget, especially those that are relevant to financial planners. Be aware of the disclosure of tax avoidance scheme provisions, and be aware of the relatively new concept of accelerated payment notices requiring the payment of tax up front on schemes that have a DOTAS reference number. So that's a contextual one, and the marginal gain to be used in relation predominantly with your relationships with professional connections. Then think about inheritance tax, the importance of estate planning to so many of your clients, and the importance of being the one who's central to that transfer of wealth between one generation and another. So what's the detail you need to know there? The detail is that only 1% of the total tax haul comes from inheritance tax. But inheritance tax is the number one tax out of 11 taxes surveyed, the number one tax in making people angry. So with that knowledge and dropping in those factors, then you can achieve the marginal gain with your clients and professional connections, showing that you're aware of that. And also the fact that there are a number of perhaps more fundamental changes that might be coming, which have been suppressed by the concentration on Brexit legislation and the whole issue of Brexit, which has consumed Parliament and prevented pretty much any other main inheritance tax changes taking place. But also bear in mind the small changes that were made in this budget. All of those are covered in quite some detail in our Techlink bulletins. The other area to consider, another area to consider, the lifetime allowance and how to invest beyond it tax efficiently. Again, that first contextual point of the new rules of anti-avoidance is one to bear strongly in mind here when showing the marginal gain that you can make by saying, actually, forget anything fancy and go with the tried and tested. Go with enterprise investment schemes, go with VCTs, go with collectives and investment bonds. Put those together and you have a tremendously tax effective potential for your clients. Concentrate on the doable. Similarly, how great is it that we haven't had a change in pensions tax relief? But be aware and use this knowledge with particularly professional connections in knowing that there was a House of Commons briefings paper which looked back historically, how else can you look back other than historically, at the proposals that have been made over the last few years in relation to looking at and changing pensions tax relief. One has to believe that some kind of change is going to come. Knowing this House of Commons briefings paper makes it very explicit and clear just how often this change has been looked at. Knowing that the government has said in the shape of the Chancellor two things which are in conflict. One, that there's no fundamental case that's been made for real change to pensions tax relief, and pretty much at the same time saying that it is eye-wateringly expensive, over 30 billion it costs. You can't imagine that some change is going to come in some time in the not too distant future, but making that change at a time of political uncertainty and the whole Brexit concentration was highly unlikely. What else can you consider to think about marginal gains and how you can make those improvements for your clients? How about corporation tax? The corporations tax rate is at an all-time low at 19%, it's going down to 17%. It sparked interest in family investment companies, which I'll talk about in a separate video. It's also given great opportunity for those companies that hold money inside a company. Why wouldn't they? Because the corporation tax rate is less than half that of the main personal tax rate. Think about the opportunities for creatively investing that money for your companies tax effectively for your corporate clients. And then there's the area of trust, a very technical area where you can make marginal improvements in showing that you have, marginal gains in showing you have that knowledge. There has been a consultation on trust, but be aware of the fact that the outcome of that analysis, that consultation on trust is very, very positive. It leaves trust very, very set to continue. The principle of the use of a trust has not been in any way diminished by this consultation. There are no substantial tax changes proposed. So knowing that that is the outcome of that consultation, you can use to just add that extra area of expertise and knowledge that will give your clients and your professional connections reassurance. So there are just some areas in which you can make the marginal gains driven by your know-how. All of those areas are covered, and you'll need to read them because that's what achieving marginal gains are all about. Putting the work in to be that one who knows more than the next person. All of those areas are covered in a lot of detail, very, very coherently in our Techlink bulletins.